For almost 18 years, one man sat at the centre of almost every major decision made at Celtic Football Club: Peter Lawwell. From 2003 until 2021, he was the club's chief executive. During that time, Celtic became one of the strongest financial institutions in British football. When Lawwell took over, stability was exactly what Celtic needed. Scottish football was financially unpredictable. Clubs were spending beyond their means, chasing success at any cost. Lawwell made sure Celtic didn't follow that path. He controlled spending. He kept wages manageable. He ensured the club remained profitable. While others collapsed under financial pressure, Celtic stayed strong. Nobody can take that away from him. But football doesn't stand still. And that's where the questions begin. At what point did financial stability become financial complacency? Year after year, Celtic qualified for Europe. Millions flowed into the club through Champions League football, player sales and commercial growth. The bank balance kept growing, the cash reserves kept growing, the value of the club kept growing. But did the football side of the business grow with it? Supporters watched the same story unfold every transfer window. Long negotiations, missed targets, late signings, managers asking for players early, only to be left waiting until deadline day. Every summer, every January, the same frustrations. Why? Was Celtic acting like a club determined to compete at the highest level, or was protecting the balance sheet becoming more important than pushing the football club forward? Because while Celtic were standing still, European football was changing. Across the continent, clubs were modernising. Sporting directors, elite recruitment departments, data analysts, global scouting networks, dedicated negotiation teams, every part of the football operation becoming more professional, more specialised, more efficient. So where was Celtic? Where was the modern football structure? Where was the long-term recruitment strategy? Where was the investment in building an organisation capable of competing with clubs of a similar size across Europe? Instead, it often felt like too much responsibility rested with one man, Peter Lawwell. Managers came and went, players came and went, coaches changed, but Peter Lawwell remained. Which raises another question. Did Celtic become too dependent on one individual? Because if one person controls so much for almost 2 decades, what happens when that person leaves? You don't just replace the individual, you have to replace the systems, the structures, the knowledge, the processes. Did Celtic actually have those things in place, or was Peter Lawwell the system? Then came 2021. After the disastrous season that saw Celtic lose the chance to win 10 league titles in a row, Lawwell stepped down as chief executive. Many supporters thought this was the moment Celtic would finally modernise. Fresh ideas, fresh leadership, a completely different way of operating. Then Dom Mackay arrived. For many supporters, he looked exactly like what Celtic needed. Someone from outside football. Someone who could challenge the way things had always been done. Someone who might finally drag Celtic into the modern era. But almost as quickly as he arrived, he was gone. His time as CEO lasted only a matter of months. Before supporters even had a chance to understand his vision, he resigned. Then came another surprise. Instead of bringing in an experienced football executive, Celtic promoted club lawyer Michael Nicholson to chief executive. Since then, criticism of Celtic's recruitment has only intensified. Transfer window after transfer window, late deals, missed opportunities, positions left unfilled, managers openly speaking about the need for quality additions, and increasingly, Brendan Rodgers appears to be turning to players he already knows, players he's worked with before, players he trusts personally. Is that the sign of a well-run recruitment department? Or is it the sign of a manager trying to solve problems himself because the club's football structure isn't delivering? But maybe Michael Nicholson isn't the real story. Maybe the real story is what he inherited. If Peter Lawwell spent 18 years overseeing almost every major football decision, what exactly did he leave behind? Where was the elite scouting department? Where was the world-class analytics team? Where was the experienced recruitment department? Where was the specialist negotiation team? Where were the football structures that every successful modern club depends on? Or did too much power become concentrated in one office, with one individual, making one final decision after another? If that's true, then perhaps Michael Nicholson was walking into a job that nobody could have succeeded in, Not because he isn't capable, but because the systems simply weren't there. And then there's another question, one that perhaps doesn't get asked often enough. Where was Dermot Desmond in all of this? As Celtic's largest shareholder and most influential figure behind the scenes, surely he had a responsibility to ask difficult questions. Year after year, Celtic's financial position improved. Year after year, European performances stagnated. Year after year, supporters complained about recruitment. So why wasn't anyone asking whether Celtic were falling behind clubs of a similar size across Europe? Why wasn't there a demand to modernise? Why wasn't there investment in football operations instead of simply celebrating another healthy set of financial accounts? Did the board become too comfortable with domestic success? Did they mistake financial strength for footballing progress? Because those two things aren't always the same. Perhaps Peter Lawwell's greatest strength eventually became Celtic's greatest weakness. The discipline that rescued the club may also have created a culture that feared calculated risk, a culture that prioritised caution over ambition, a culture where protecting what Celtic had became more important than chasing what Celtic could become. Peter Lawwell's legacy will always divide opinion. He deserves enormous credit for putting Celtic on a secure financial footing. But football is about evolution, and the uncomfortable question remains. Did Peter Lawwell's need to control so much of Celtic's operation stop the club from building the modern football structures that every elite club now relies on? Did that concentration of power leave Celtic completely unprepared for life after him? And if it did, where does the responsibility really lie? With Michael Nicholson? Or with the people who built the system he inherited? Because perhaps the biggest question of all is this. Did Peter Lawwell's leadership leave Celtic financially secure, but footballingly 20 years behind where they should have been?
A former Prime Minister and the Celtic Chief Executive were on the ball at the Scottish Football Museum this afternoon, with Peter Lawwell in the mood to have a dig at his city rival's expense. Late last night, a senior Rangers official claimed the Ibrox club had turned down a £9 million offer for Nikica Jelavic from an agent of an unnamed club. Few expected this response from Lawwell when we asked about Celtic's transfer business.
Reports yesterday that there were perhaps offers for Hooper and whatnot. What can you tell us?
Well, last night we got a £29 million offer for Hooper. From an unknown agent, from an unknown club, from another universe.